Oops, still not it. Wow, why do they have an entire room just for shoes? That's mental. I muttered to myself as I closed the door. I swear, that was like the 20th door I'd opened. This place was insane. I had no idea which door would lead to my bedroom. To be honest, I've never been anywhere this lavish before in my entire life. Okay, it's now down to this door or that one over there. Wish me luck. But as I reached for the doorknob, I heard a voice.
Hey, what prank you trying to pull on me again? I caught you red-handed this time, Gabby.
Startled, I turned around, and oh wow, there was this super cute guy standing there, looking so smug with himself. So this must be Jaden, the annoying big brother that Gabby had told me about. Only he didn't seem annoying to me. But right, I needed to stay in character, so I replied, yeah, guess I was just too busy thinking about stuff that I didn't watch where I was going. Take it easy, bro. Then I immediately fled to the other room while Jaden watched me in confusion. Phew! That was a close one. And wow, was Gabby a princess or something? She lived in a literal palace. Look at her room. Oh, you must be wondering. Yes, I'm not Gabby. I'm Nancy. So how come Jaden didn't realize that I was not his sister? Now, let me tell you, that's one wild story. I was just a normal teenager, living my peaceful life in the Missouri countryside. My family doesn't have a lot of money, so I worked part-time in a nearby diner so I could save up for college. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but I knew I was lucky to have my loving family. They're my everything. So, anyway, it wasn't uncommon for schools from St. Louis to arrange trips out here to show the kids what country life was like. And on days like those, the diner could get pretty hectic, and today was no exception. By the time my shift finished, I was a tired, sweaty mess, so I took the scenic route home to unwind. That's when I heard this girl screaming for help. She must have slipped and fell into this ditch. I quickly found a big branch to help pull her out of there. Then she brushed the dirt off her as she said, "Thanks." But as she looked up at me, OMG! We both jumped up in such a fright that we almost stumbled back into the ditch. She looked exactly like me. I pinched myself to check I wasn't hallucinating or something. I mean, I was super exhausted from work. We stared at each other gormlessly for a bit. Then she suddenly reached out her hand and slapped me. Ouch! I raised my eyebrows at her, and she just grinned back. Oops, sorry. Just checking this isn't a dream. That's when I saw it. Her bracelet. The pendant on it was a strange shape. A strange shape like mine. I held out my wrist to slot my bracelet's pendant into hers, and it formed a butterfly. What's more, carved on the back of it was our birthday, November 3rd. Oh my God! No wonder why! I always asked my parents why they bought me such an ugly bracelet. Turns out it was 2 halves of a whole? She shrieked. So, do you think we're twins? I was still in shock, but I managed to mutter out, "Must be." She excitedly clapped her hands together, then pulled me into a hug. She said her name was Gabby, and her field trip was so dull that she wandered off, then ended up lost and stuck. Then I told her about my loving family, and she told me about her city life. I thought her life sounded awesome, but she didn't think so. Nah, it's seriously so boring over there. I just want a happy, drama-free life like yours. It makes sense now. I see why my parents love my brother more than me. I'm obviously adopted. But hey, at least you have your friends and get to go to a good school. School? That's the worst part. I hate it. Then she paused and turned to me. Nancy, I have an amazing idea. How about we switch places? This was crazy. An hour ago, I thought I was an only child, and now I was staring at my twin. Gabby seemed adamant switching places was the best idea ever, as I'd get a taste of the city life while also helping her ace her upcoming exams. This did sound tempting. I mean, it wasn't every day your long-lost twin appeared and offered you the adventure of a lifetime, right? We didn't have much time to discuss it anymore, so we quickly switched clothes, phones, and further instructions about anything else would be discussed later over the phone. Then I showed her the way to my house, and I headed toward the crowd of noisy students lining up for the bus back to the city. Suddenly, a girl tapped me on the shoulder and in an annoyed tone said, where have you been? Blonde hair, a pink hairband, and wearing a choker with a heart pendant on it. Yep, this must be Katie, Gabby's best friend. I followed her onto the bus, then yawned and told her I was exhausted. I feigned sleeping for the duration of the journey back so she wouldn't start any more convos with me. So after that, things went by smoothly, until I got home and didn't know where I normally sleep at. But it's okay now, as I'm safe in Gabby's bedroom. The butler did knock on the door to ask me to come down for dinner. I know, the fact they have a butler is crazy. But I just lied that I'd eaten loads on the field trip. There was no time for food now. I needed to learn as much as I could about these people. I searched her room and looked through her yearbooks, family photos, anything. I thought I was ready to go to school as Gabby tomorrow. But, well, as if it was that simple. The next morning, I nervously came downstairs to go to school. And of course, I had to face the entire family now. Upon seeing me, the small talks all came flying at me. How was yesterday's trip, dear? I managed to mumble out, it was all right. Then suddenly, a hand rubbed my hair.
Hey, I'm taking your PB&J, okay? You won't eat it anyway.
I turned to look and saw him grinning at me before he headed outside. Oh gosh, I thought I'd melted into a puddle. He's so cute. I just wanted to follow him. But then Dad cleared his throat.
Gabriella, can we please make it a day free of complaints from your teachers?
Oh God, Gabby, what had you possibly done? I gulped back, nodded in response, then hurried out of there. I awkwardly lingered in front of the mansion. This was the spot where the bus dropped me off yesterday, so hope this was how it worked. Then suddenly, a scary-looking guy pulled up on the other side of the street and yelled at me.
Babe, what are you doing? Get in!
Me? I was his babe? Oh, so he was Dylan, my sister's boyfriend. I walked over and reluctantly climbed on the back seat.
Hey, what's wrong? Are you still mad at me for letting you go on the field trip alone? Come on, you said it was okay.
I didn't know what to say to him, so I stayed quiet and stared out the window.
Come on, babe. I mean, this is dumb. We both know how sitting in the back always gives you travel sickness.
Gosh, I really needed to say something to shut this guy up, huh? No, it's totally fine between us. It's just that I feel a bit under the weather. I need a little rest, that's all. And it's more spacey here. Well, that seemed to quiet him down, but I kept on catching him giving me odd looks in the rearview mirror. Look at him! Ugh! Gabby and I might be twins, but our taste in guys couldn't be any more different. Dylan looked like the bad boy type. Green hair, a nose ring, and drove some flashy sports car, while I prefer sweet and funny guys, like Jaden. But I didn't want to accidentally ruin my sister's relationship either, so when we got to school, I had to give him a peck on the cheek to make sure that we were cool. Yuck. His cologne stank. Luckily, I met Katie in the parking lot, so I followed her to class. Things were going great. At least, they were, until we got to Spanish class. The teacher, Mrs. Harrison, gave me this judgy look right from the moment I walked in. Turns out, Gabby hadn't handed in her homework, and she spent the whole of the last session painting her nails. Mrs. Harrison demanded to check my homework today. Well, of course, I didn't know I had homework. So, in a disappointed voice, she said, "Gabby, it's been 2 years and you still don't know how to conjugate any single verb. Are you proud of that?" Suddenly, I heard Katie whisper, "But at least she knows how to dress, Mrs. Harrison." Your sweater looks like it should have been thrown out 2 years ago." Then some of the class giggled. Oh my God, Katie? That was so rude. But luckily, the teacher didn't hear that. I quickly apologized to Mrs. Harrison and told her to just give me a pop quiz to make up for my missing homework. She did. And to her, and the whole class's total surprise, I slayed all the questions. After class, I told Katie that her comment about Mrs. Harrison wasn't cool. Laughing, she replied, "Geez, why are you so uptight today?" But on seeing my unfaltering expression, she quickly changed the subject. "You've still got to help me with the plan, okay? You promised." She winked at me. "What? What plan?" In confusion, I faked a smile at Katie. "Oh, don't you worry, girl. I got it all set." That night, Gabby called me and we updated each other on our first day. Things went better than expected. Apparently, she loved it there, and she felt so warm and connected with Mom and Dad, and she was sure that they were our real parents. She also enjoyed feeding the chickens and apple picking in the backyard. However, she did almost get me fired from work, as she didn't know how to use the oven, but she managed to charm her way out of it. I told her how I'd handled the Dylan situation and made peace with Mrs. Harrison. But oh, Gabby, Katie did mention to me about some plan. What is it? Oh, yeah. I promised to set her up with Jaden. I guess you'll have to carry it out for me now. My heart sank as I said, "Jaden? As in, your brother Jaden?" "Yeah. Now, not biologically. It's no wonder I just couldn't get along with him. Not like us, right?" I forced a laugh and changed the subject. But, oh no, Jaden was far more suited to me than rebellious Katie. But, okay, this was Gabby's life, so I needed to make sure I didn't mess it up. And maybe, when this twinning truth broke out, I'd get my chance with Jaden. For now, we agreed to continue living each other's lives. I suppose it was pretty easy, seeing as all Gabby seemed to do was hang out with her friends and avoid doing her homework. The only part I didn't like was setting Katie up with Jaden. And that's when things got complicated. Will we ever tell everyone the truth? Or this life swap is too much fun to stop? Stay tuned for part 2 to find out. Hey, it's me again, Nancy. Only I'm currently pretending to be my long-lost identical twin, Gabby. After a chance meeting with her, she was now living my life in the countryside, and I was living hers in the city. One snag, I was crushing on her adoptive brother Jaden. But Gabby's best friend Katie also wanted me to set her up with him. What a bummer, huh? Katie insisted that I convince Jaden to tutor her on Saturday. The excuse being she had some super important physics exam. So, with my most enthusiastic voice, I went to ask him to help her. And surprisingly, Jaden found it a great idea.
"You should sit in too. Dad will be so stoked if you manage to get something above an F next time."
Oh wow, Jaden is just the sweetest. I don't get why Gabby complains about him. So, as planned, at 3 p.m. sharp, Katie appears at our door, wearing this flashy, off-the-shoulder dress that would have best suited a nightclub or something. Upon seeing her, Jaden chuckled and said,
"Oh, what's the occasion?"
Katie blushed and smiled back. But before she could speak up, I chimed in. Katie's afraid your physics class would be too boring, so she wanted to add some colors. Jaden laughed and told us to follow him upstairs to study. Katie obviously wasn't happy with my ad-lib. She frowned at me and mouthed, "What the heck was that?" And I just gave her 2 big thumbs up and acted as if I was being an amazing wing girl. We sat around a desk and Jaden started to explain physics stuff. This was so easy, but Katie kept leaning in closer to him and asked him some dumb questions while playing with her hair. I swear, the hair twirling was an act, but her not understanding any of these symbols was real. I soon got tired of playing dumb, so I jumped in and explained it instead, and Jaden looked impressed. Okay, this was fun. Katie shot me a dirty look. "Gabby, don't you have a manicure at 5? Then she kicked my leg under the desk.
Stay. You're acing it.
Jaden grinned at me.
Those nails can wait. You're only one F away from Dad's tantrum, and I don't want to witness that.
Then he turned to Katie.
You should encourage each other to do better.
Then we went back to the lesson. I could tell how furious Katie was, as she was crumpling up the edges of a page on her notepad. I was secretly celebrating my little win. Then my phone rang. It was Dylan, and he sounded kinda mad. Oh my God. I'd totally forgotten that Gabby had told me about today's big date at a fancy restaurant for their 6th-month anniversary. Oops. I didn't want to go on a date with Dylan and leave Jaden here with Katie. Ugh! But I couldn't let Gabby down, so I quickly changed outfits, grabbed the gift she'd bought for him, then left. I arrived at the restaurant to see him lingering about outside, looking sulky. So I had to make up some excuse. Sorry, honey, I just wanted to look good for you. Then gave him a kiss on the cheek. Yuck. He was wearing even more cologne this time. Inside, I feigned interest in the menu so I wouldn't have to talk to him. I didn't want to mess my sister's relationship up, but I had nothing in common with this guy. Suddenly, his phone rang out. Hang on, was that a Youngblood song?
Sorry, babe. I forgot to put it back on silent.
I love Youngblood. His new song is so catchy. We should make a TikTok to it. He gave me an odd look.
But you always hate this kind of music.
Thinking quick, I replied, I guess your music tastes must be rubbing off on me. He looked extra happy, then took my hand, which startled me a little, but that was a good icebreaker. I felt much more comfortable talking to him after that. Okay, so regardless of his clothes and hair, he was actually a pretty sweet guy, and it was obvious that he really cares for Gabby. We had a lot of fun, and then he dropped me off at home. And obviously, like any couple that had been dating for months, he went in for a kiss. And I started to panic again. For your information, I haven't had my first kiss yet. And I didn't want it to be with my sister's boyfriend. I gave him a kiss on the cheek again, then fake coughing. I told him the cold the other day hadn't worn off yet, and I didn't want to pass it to him. Phew. Luckily, he bought it. Then he just gave me a kiss on the forehead and wished me good night. Phew! It was such a day. I threw myself onto the bed and was about to call Gabby for an update when Katie called. She moaned at me for being unhelpful on her date. Then she demanded I rearrange another one to make it up to her. So, another tutor session with math? I suggested, with zero effort whatsoever. No thanks, I'm tired of it. Gabby, you literally did no help today. This is the chance to redeem yourself. I trust you. Then she hung up, leaving me at a dead end. So I phoned Gabby for advice, and she told me to book them at a date at Jaden's favorite restaurant or something. Then, Gabby must have noticed how unenthusiastic I sounded. She added, Oh, and Nancy, I know Katie loves to do the whole mean girl act, but underneath it all, she's actually pretty sensitive and has always been a good friend to me. So please make this work for her. Okay. So I needed to be less Nancy and more Gabby, as Katie deserved to have a loyal, caring best friend. So I made a reservation, sent Katie the time and place, then told Jaden about it. And now I just sit back and let them meet up and flirt and... I mean, there's nothing I could do. It's not like I was going to stalk them or anything. But yeah, that's exactly what I ended up doing. I didn't mean to, but the thought of them being together just driving me nuts. So there I was, strategically placing myself behind a pillar in the restaurant, trying to stalk them. Then all of a sudden, someone threw an apron at me.
What are you doing? The place is packed and you decide to just stand here flirting with the pillar, or what? Get to work!
I turned to see the waiter who had just talked to me rush off to take another order. Wait a minute, did he just think I was a waitress because my shirt looked similar to their uniform? If so, then let the fun begin. I quickly put on the apron, lowered my hat, and hovered around the kitchen window, trying to find Jaden and Katie's order. There it was. Now, let's add extra spice on Katie's ravioli. It didn't take long for their food to come out. and Katie started coughing like crazy, having a taste of her food. Ha! But joke on me, that only gave her a platform to act up and make Jaden take better care of her. He even held a forkful of his steak out to her, and I watched her lean in and eat it. Ugh! Later on, when the waiter walked away with their dessert order, I waited for a sec before running after him and said, "Hey, Table 17 just asked to change the chocolate cake to peanut butter cheesecake. They just told me." Then he just fixed the order without a doubt. Katie seemed to hate peanut butter so much. She made sure to let everybody know that every time we went to eat something. Well, Jaden loved PB&J, so by this way, he would see what an annoying picky eater she was. After that, I lingered at a corner, pretending to wipe tables to stay out of sight, while keeping an eye on them. And as expected, Katie jumped off her seat and started yelling at the waiter after taking a sniff of the cake. The waiter looked puzzled, then looked around, searching for something. Suddenly, he pointed at me. "Hey, are you sure about the order? You were the one who told me that they switched the cakes." I froze as all the eyes were now on me. "Gabby, I can't believe this! Why are you ruining this for me?" Katie charged towards me. You know how bad my peanut allergy is. I could have ended up in the hospital. I don't know you anymore, Gabby." Then she stormed off. Oh my God, I really didn't know that. I didn't mean to hurt Katie that way. Jaden then quickly paid the bill, then grunted at me. "We're going home." He didn't say a single word to me on the way home. He just went straight to his room and slammed the door. I stood outside of his room and kept on apologizing. He finally opened it and yelled at me. "What's up with you? You've reached new levels of weird lately?" "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "I thought you'd finally changed for the better. But, well, turns out you're still the same spoiled brat you always were. Just do whatever you want without a second thought." "No, it's not like that. It was an accident. Oh, really? Then what is it like?" "It's like I have a crush on you, Jaden. I just can't bear seeing you with other girls." "What? Are you crazy? This better not be some kind of prank, Gabby. You're my sister." "No, I'm not. I'm not Gabby. I'm her twin, Nancy. And FYI, both Gabby and I aren't your biological sister either." Jaden looked at me, jaw dropped. Then I felt a hand on my shoulder. "Gabby, what did you just say?" It was Mum. She looked so perplexed, and tears were already welling up. We had an emergency family meeting, where I told them all about my chance meeting with Gabby, switching places, and how she believed she was adopted, as they favored Jaden over her. So now she's with our biological parents in the countryside. To say they looked shocked was an understatement. Then Mum took my hand and said, "Sweetie, it's time you learned the truth." Then she told me how 12 years ago, during a family picnic, I wandered off and got lost. They tried searching for me, but to no result. But now, here I was. I'd found my way back to them. They also mentioned that it wasn't that they loved Jaden more. They were stricter with Gabby because she was rebellious when it came to her studies. "It pains me to know she thinks we love her less." Dad sighed, then Mum turned to me, cupped my face with her hands. "Oh God, my poor Abby. I can't believe you're here with us now." "Abby? So my real name was Abigail?" I choked up. Things then got emotional. There was a lot of hugging and sobbing. It was an emo overload. "So let's go pick up your sister, shall we?" Dad patted on my shoulder and told everyone to get changed. Then we hit the road right away. It may have already been 10 p.m., but this couldn't wait. On the ride, I started to calm down and let the truth get to me as I took one good look at everyone. So these were my real parents? And that meant Jaden was my real brother too? Man, now that's embarrassing. I pulled out my phone to give Gabby a heads up that we were coming, and didn't forget to add a, "You are so not going to believe what actually happened." I was expecting her to call me right back, But instead, she just replied with, "I bet you I will believe it." Huh? We arrived at my house, and my parents rushed out to me and hugged me tightly. It turns out they figured out that Gabby was an imposter pretty quickly, but she's still enjoying this farming life so much that she decided to hang around a bit more before telling me. Sorry, Nancy, but it didn't take long for Mom and Dad to notice how her daughter suddenly doesn't know how to fry an egg anymore. Then everybody laughed. We all squeezed around the kitchen table and caught up on everything. Oh boy, it got emotional again. I think we all cried enough tears to fill a lake. It was so good to see my parents again. Even though they weren't my biological parents, they loved and cared for me, despite all the money struggles. Now that we're reunited, I've officially moved back in the city with Gabby, and we now go to school together. We still come out to the countryside every weekend and spend some quality time with my adoptive parents, who, turns out, Gabby loves just as much as I do. And thanks to my biological parents, they now have the bountiful ranch they always dreamed of. It all fell into place in the end, and I couldn't be happier. Except for the little awkward moments with Jaden. Thinking back about that, it was so dumb. Maybe I'll help Katie properly this time, as, to be honest, they'd make a pretty cute couple. But she better set me up with another cute guy in return.
This shift was boring. So as I handed the 2 coffees over to the girl, I couldn't help but daydream about what to have for lunch. Excuse me, why the attitude? The girl sounded annoyed. Then before I could say anything, she shouted, "I want to speak to your manager." The boy next to her tried to keep her calm and asked her to go outside first. Then he said to me, "I'm sorry about my sister." I mumbled, "It's okay," as I handed him $20 change. "Oh, just keep it," he smiled. But then he started apologizing, took the change, then left. What just happened? I took out my phone to check my face. Oh, great. I looked like I was sucking on wasps. And all because I was thinking about whether I should have pasta or a sandwich. Well, to be honest, what just happened wasn't new to me, but it never seemed to get any easier. Let me start at the beginning. So, I'm Isabelle. I just graduated from high school and was soon to be a freshman at college. Ever since I can remember, my parents, friends, and teachers always asked me the same questions, such as, "What's wrong?" and "Why the long face?" When I told them that I was fine, they would always be like, "Are you sure?" Or, "If there's a problem, you need to tell us, okay?" Oh, it was so frustrating. There was even this one time where my teacher had to stop in the middle of a lesson to ask me not to look at her like that because my stare made her feel uncomfortable. What? I was just really focused. Then I eventually found out in high school. It was on a normal sunny day. I was sitting at the bus stop with my best friend Jocelyn when some guy came over and asked for directions. I looked up and the guy got startled and began to stutter. "Oh, sorry for bothering you." And then he left in a hurry. Huh? This was so confusing. He didn't even give me a chance to get a word out. So I turned to Jocelyn and asked if she might know what the guy's problem was. Maybe it's because you look like you want to kick his butt. Then she told me how everyone at school thought I was an arrogant snob. What? That was ridiculous. Why would they think of me like that? I asked her this, and she took out a mirror and held it to my face. Well, see it for yourself. I took a deep look in the mirror, and oh my God, she was right. I did look a bit moody, but I swear I wasn't, not at all. The next day, Jocelyn sent me a link to an article. It was about people having a naturally grumpy face, also known as resting bee face, aka RBF. You know the word. No wonder nobody likes me and wants to be friends with me. Well, except Jocelyn, thank God. She saw beyond my sullen-looking exterior. I wanted college to be different, so I was determined to say goodbye to snobby Isabelle and say hello to happy, joyful Isabelle. I just needed to smile all the time. Sounds easy, right? So on my first day at college, I walked into the lecture hall with the biggest smile fixed on my face. I hoped I looked friendly and not like that creepy cat from Alice in Wonderland. But then my smile immediately vanished when I saw him. It was the guy who wanted to tip me $20 and then ran off with it. Ugh, why was he here? I was trying to come across as a sweet, friendly girl, and I didn't need him spreading rude rumors about me. So the easiest solution was to avoid this guy as much as possible. Only the universe had other ideas, and I found myself stuck doing a group project with him. Ugh, great. We all sat in a circle, and I found out he's called Carter. Our group leader, Carla, assigned each of us a task. While listening to her, I tried to hold my smile as brightly as I could. Keep it steady, steady, I thought to myself over and over. But you know what? Fake smiling is hard work, and it causes serious face ache. Then my cheek started twitching, so to avoid looking like a weirdo, I decided to take a break from smiling. And that's when Carla noticed me and asked, "Did I say something wrong?" Everybody was gawping at me. I could feel myself blushing. Great, now I probably resembled a grumpy tomato. That's when Carter spoke up. "Just continue. We'll say if anything's unclear." Thank you, Carter. Now, I know how Lois Lane felt after being rescued by Superman. This felt even more intense than the movie. And oh, he was actually kinda cute too. I felt a little bummed out after the group meeting. All I wanted to do was make some friends, but I'd already given Carla the wrong impressions about myself. I'm not a big party goer, but perhaps the big freshman party happening on Friday would be a good place to make friends, right? Feeling down, I sat on the side of the bench by the college sports field and just looked up to the sky. Then I noticed Carter playing soccer with some guys. So I watched him play for a bit. It could have been the lighting, or the fact he looked so hot when sweaty, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. Maybe I should try talking to him. The next day, I walked into the lecture hall and spotted Carter sitting alone reading a book. This was my chance. I could sit next to him and start a convo. Okay, Isabelle, keep it cool. Oh no, not cool. Cool means arrogant. Keep it happy. You got this. Smile on. Check. Hi, is this seat? Carter looked up. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know this was your seat." Then he gathered his stuff and moved to another table. What? Ugh, curse you, RBF! I wasn't giving up this easily, so I searched online and read that makeup could help fix my situation. So, I applied makeup around my mouth and eyes, then went to my lecture. Only during the group discussion, Carter whispered to me, "Are you sick? As you look a bit pale. Why don't you go home? I can take notes for you." After hearing him say that, I actually did feel a bit sick. Sick of the constant failure. But wait, this Friday was the party. That would be my last opportunity to make friends and talk to Carter. I'd never been to a party before, mainly because no one had ever invited me to one. Pretty sure they thought my grumpy look would kill the mood. So I spent ages deliberating on an outfit, opting for a bright-colored dress to make me look more cheerful. As I walked into the party, I couldn't stop shaking. Everyone looked like they were having a great time, while I just looked like a grumpy kid longing for their mama. "It's okay, Isabelle. Keep calm," I told myself. I just needed a couple drinks to boost my confidence. So, I got a couple of shots from the bar, and wow, I immediately felt like a whole new person. I was about to bravely talk to some girls when suddenly a guy came over to me and said, "Hey, looks like you're having a bad time. If you don't like these things, I think you should just go home. It's okay." Great. If even alcohol couldn't help me, then what else could? I lost all interest in making friends, so I decided to take the random guy's advice and leave. Everyone would have far more fun without having to see my moody face anyway. As I hurried out of there, I heard someone shout, "Isabelle, wait up!" I turned around and saw that it was Carter. He caught up with me and asked why I was leaving so early. I muttered out how partying wasn't really my thing and I'd rather hang out somewhere else. "Yeah, I'm not so keen on them either. Can I come with you?" I froze for a minute, but I guess he presumed I was angry with him, as he apologized and went to leave. Oh, hell no. No way am I gonna let him slip away again, so I said quickly, "Of course you can come!" But it came out as loud screaming. The poor guy must have felt like a tiger was growling in front of his face. Well, at least he was still coming with me, right? Even if it was out of fear. He looked a little unsure as I led him toward one of my favorite places, which was underneath this bridge, but when he saw all of the awesome graffiti, he seemed to be more at ease. He had fun, looking from one piece to the next. Then we started talking, and turns out we could get on pretty well. We soon became close friends, and I even introduced him to Jocelyn. The more I spent time with Carter, the more I liked him, and I started to think that he liked me too. Don't ask me why. It's just a gut feeling. Then one day I opened the door to see Carter standing there with his huge bouquet and a cute gift box. Oh, sweet Lord, were they for me? I knew I needed to say something, so I mumbled out, "Who is that for?" Ouch. Did that sound a bit harsh? Should I ask again? And maybe with a softer voice and a smile. But before I could say anything, Carter replied, Oh, these are for Jocelyn. Can you please give them to her? Thanks." He handed me them, then ran off. What? Carter was in love with Jocelyn? But hey, it's no shocker that good things never happen to me, and someone with a naturally joyful look like her would get all the guys. Let's face it, who wants a mean-looking girlfriend? This sucked. After that, I purposefully avoided Carter, and we didn't talk at all for a week. It was all too much. So one day after lectures, I went to my happy place under the bridge. What? There was this new graffiti drawing. It was huge, ugly, and I think it was for me. As in dried, dripping letters, it said, "I love you, Isabelle." I stared at it open-mouthed. Was this someone's idea of a joke? Then someone came up alongside me. It was Carter. "It's not my finest work, but I tried," he said coyly. Huh? He did this, but why? Then he continued, "The flowers and gift were for you, but I thought you were annoyed, so I freaked out and said they were for Jocelyn. So afterward, I called her and told her the truth, and she said that you like me too." Now that explains the weird looks Jocelyn has been giving me. I was so having words with her later. "You know, I drew that a week ago. I've been following you every day after college. Not in a creepy way. I just wanted to be here when you first saw it. And oh man, it was so worth it." Then he gave me the cutest smile and pulled me in for a hug. Oh, wow. This guy knew how to make a girl melt. And you know what? I was smiling, and I wasn't forcing it. So that's it. We became an official couple. Turns out he doesn't care if I have a RBF or not, as he took the time out to discover the real me. You should never judge a book by its cover, as you might miss out on the best adventure ever. So, if that girl or guy looks a bit miserable, then maybe you shouldn't rule them out as being arrogant and moody, and instead, give them a chance.
I entered the apartment to see 4 sets of eyes gawping at me. Hang on, I know Ned and Philip from my math class, and the girl currently giving me a snooty look while twirling her hair around her finger was Jessica. Well, I didn't actually know her, but her wealthy and snobbish reputation preceded her. Then lastly was that emo kid. What was his name again? Deciding to break the uncomfortable silence, I said, "Oh, hey, so guess you guys are also in detention?" No one replied, though they surely heard me. Whoa, okay. This atmosphere was tense, and I thought I'd always been the awkward one. Honestly, I don't even know why I'm being made to do this weird detention. All I did was accidentally and poorly throw the dodgeball in the gym teacher's face. Then, when I was about to apologize, my tongue slipped. But, aren't you supposed to be the toughest since you're the gym teacher?" I mumbled. Naturally, she was livid, so I ended up in the principal's office, and he handed me a piece of paper with an apartment address on it and said, "Go here for your detention. You'll stay here until you've learned your lesson." Huh? What type of unspecific instructions were those? Before I could ask him any more, he shooed me out of his office. Now, here I am in this random apartment with these untalkative kids. As I looked at them, I couldn't help but wonder what they'd done to end up here, especially when Ned was an excellent student. Did he make the wrong move in the chess club or something? We continued the whole staring at each other in silence routine. But then the door burst open and stormed in Gwen, our school's resident carefree tomboy. She sneered out, "Good evening, babies." Great! Now I was stuck sharing a living space with a girl renowned for playing pranks such as toilet papering the principal's car and filling the biology lab with live frogs. But seriously, how were we at her truancy level? Let's see who we have here. Gwen rubbed her hands as she walked around and stared at us. Princess Jessica? Oof, how come? She raised an eyebrow and grinned sarcastically. Just sit down and shut up. Gwen gave him a dirty look. This isn't basketball. You're not the captain here, jock. Then she squared up to him. Ned turned pale. Jessica rolled her eyes, and the emo boy, well, he was busy sketching something and clearly chose to ignore our existence. We'd only been here for less than an hour, and the last thing we needed was a fist fight, so I stepped in between them. Pulling a wry face, Gwen said, "What's this? Little Miss Friendly?" Look, we're all stuck here and we don't know for how long, so let's at least try to be civil. Let's try talking it out. So, I'm Ashley, and I'm here because of a misunderstanding with a gym teacher and a dodgeball. Geez, nobody cares! I can't believe I have to be here with these people! Jessica stood up and left. Pff, I'm with Miss Popular on this one. Ned sneered before he also left. And the emo boy, too. Then Gwen rasped and disappeared. There was only Philip and me left in the room. He was meant to be handsome and stuff, but looking at him now, I didn't think so. Ugh, this awkward silence was insufferable. This was just like that movie, The Breakfast Club, but much worse, and in much longer time. Who on earth had to pack clothes for detention? I had no idea how long I had to stay here for. So I decided to go to bed. I walked into the girls' room to see that both of the beds next to the window were already occupied. Bummer. They'd taken the best spots. I reluctantly got into the only bed left and hoped that tomorrow wouldn't suck as much as today had. The next morning, I woke up to yelling. Huh? I rubbed my eyes and yawned. It was still far too early. I went out into the corridor to see what was going on and saw Jessica and Ned arguing over the apartment's only bathroom. Jessica wanted to apply her makeup, while Ned really needed to go. Then Philip watched on and butted in on occasion to say something dumb. Why don't you use some of your nerdy mathematics to solve your problem? The only reason you need to spend so long applying makeup is because you're ugly. Ooh, burn! Philip laughed. Suddenly, the bathroom door slammed shut. They rushed over to it and tried opening it to no avail. 10 minutes later, the emo kid stepped out. Jessica screamed at him. How dare you! My personal stuff is still in there. I watched on, wide-eyed. OMG. These people were ridiculous. How was I meant to live with them? In the end, we eventually came to an agreement about the bathroom's rule. It was first come, first serve, but each of us could only have the throne for a max 15 minutes. Being in such a small space with people I barely knew was always going to be problematic, but not having our phones as a distraction made it so much harder. We had one TV, but there's only one lousy channel on it. No one cleaned up, no one seemed to get along. Ugh, seriously? When will this end? All of the constant dirt and arguing was driving me nuts. But then the final straw was this one time when I was washing my face, the cleansing foam accidentally got into my eyes to wipe it out. But to my horror, when I opened my eyes, so I quickly reached for a towel, I saw myself holding someone's sock instead. Yuck! After that, I gathered everyone and threw the sock onto the floor and said, "We need to sort out order, as I can't live like this anymore. It's gross." Jessica snorted. "Who are you to boss around? No one cares what you think." Before I even had a chance to say anything back, Ned piped in that Jessica was just a dumb rich girl who never lifted a finger. Then Gwen jumped up to her feet and started shouting for no reason. Philip gave me this smirky know-it-all look that made me want to scream. Then he actually lobbed a basketball at me, which almost took my head off. Then, ignoring the others, I started shouting at him. The only one who stayed quiet was the emo boy. "You aren't even that pretty. In fact, I've seen more attractive slugs," I heard Ned say to Jessica. That was a bit much, wasn't it? I mean, it was obvious Ned only teases Jessica because he has a huge crush on her. Jessica huffed as she tossed her hair behind her back, then stormed off to her room. Man, this place sucks. At least lunchtime had arrived. So I made myself a delicious-looking burger, then quickly went to the bathroom. When I returned, I couldn't believe it. Philip was taking a bite out of my burger. I screamed at him, but then he shrugged, then said he'd make me a new one. And like a decade later, my replacement lunch finally arrived. And Philip was smiling at me strangely and watched on as I bit into it. Ew! I lifted up the top of the bun to see a raw piece of beetroot. Ugh. I was so fed up with everyone that I went to bed super early that night. Only when I woke up the next day, both Jessica and Gwen burst out laughing at me. I hurried to the bathroom and checked out my face. Oh no. Turns out someone had drawn on my pillow, and now I had ink all over my face. I had to scrub my face for ages to get it off. Then Philip wouldn't quit laughing at me. I knew he was responsible. Ugh! Such a jerk! And on the other hand, we also had the emo kid that I was seriously getting sick of. He never said or did anything. Instead, he just sat there, usually wearing his stompy boots and looking all moody. I mean, why wear those sweaty-looking boots when he's stuck inside? It was about time he spoke up, so I came up with a prank to get him talking. When the emo kid was in the shower, Ned and I filled his beloved boots with mayo. A little later, I heard some loud thump. Then the emo kid did a weird walk across the room with his foot covered in mayo, while clutching one of his boots. "Have you lost your mind?" he shouted. And not gonna lie, I was intimidated by this other side of him. Then out of nowhere, Jessica appeared. She turned to me and shoved my shoulder. "That was too much, don't you think?" "Oh, no, you didn't. I wasn't gonna let someone like her speak to me like that and get away with it." So I struck a defensive pose and glared at her. We ended up in a stare-off when suddenly I felt arms pulling me back. It was Philip. I tried flailing free of his grip, which caused him to lose his balance, and he accidentally elbowed Gwen. "Oh, you're done, Jock!" Soon, Jessica and I were pulling each other's hair, and Gwen and Philip were shoving each other. It was mayhem. "Stop! All of you!" It was the emo kid. He glared at us with rage. "You're acting like immature brats!" Well, that was unexpected, but I guess it worked, as a few seconds later, we started cleaning up the mess we'd made. We knew something needed to change, so at dinner, we all sat around the table and tried to sort things out. The others were all staring down at their food and not talking, so I decided to go first. So, I'm here because I don't always react well to certain situations. I don't know, I guess I find it hard to make friends. I trailed off. Then Ned spoke up. "The only word my mom seems to know nowadays is study, study, study. I feel like all I am to her is a grade. So when I got a B in English Lit, I ripped it up in front of the teacher. That's the story." Jessica flicked back her hair, then said, "Try having all the money you could ever want, but the most neglectful parents ever. I bet they still haven't noticed that I've been stuck here with you losers for days now, just because I told some girl her skirt was hideous. I was doing her a favor. Poof."
Then Philip blurted out, "My father wanted me to be strong and manly just like him. I don't want to be like him, but I'm worried I will be, and that I won't be able to do anything about it. So I skipped basketball practice, got into an argument with coach and my dad, and now I'm in the weirdest detention ever."
Gwen sneered. "Least your dad's around. Mine does month-long disappearing acts. And my mom's dead. Oh, and I'm here because I put paint in some clown's locker. Serves them right for bad-mouthing me." Her words were followed by an intense silence. Awkward. But I felt like I understood everyone a little better now. Oh, but hang on. The emo kid hadn't said anything. "Hey, you." I looked at him. "So, what's your story?" He shrugged, and I didn't think he was going to talk, but then in a quiet voice he said, "I'm Stan. I never knew my dad. My mom isn't around, so I live with my grandparents. I'm here because I ignored the principal, but only 'cause I had earphones in." "Oh," I muttered out. "Look, I'm sorry about your boots. I'll help you clean them if you like." Stan nodded. Jessica was right. I had been a bit harsh on him. Then Ned gave this awkward smile and said,
Jessica, I know I've been a jerk to you, but it's only because I like you."
Jessica didn't do so much as flinch. She still kept studying her nails. Probably because having boys smitten over her was already a part of her daily routine.
"Well, I might like someone too."
Phil stretched his arms behind his chair.
"I guess I like winding her up."
He looked directly at me. I felt myself blushing, and I had this weird fluttering feeling in my stomach. But why? My heart started racing. Now what was I meant to do? It's me again, Ashley. And yep, you guessed it. I was still stuck in this apartment with these annoying kids. That was definitely the weirdest detention ever. None of us had any idea how long we'd be stuck here. Oh well, at least we weren't starving, as every 3 days a giant bag full of groceries would appear inside the doorway, since we couldn't get out of there. Things had become a little less awkward since the day we'd sat down and opened up to each other. Although Ned had switched from being a jerk towards Jessica to following her around the place like a lovesick puppy. Take this morning, for instance. He held a slice of toast out to her, which he'd cut into the shape of a heart. She rolled her eyes as she pushed the plate away. "Poof! Get real, nerd! I don't like you." He took a bite of the toast, then in between chewing said, "You'll soon change your mind. I'm Sin 2X and you're Coast 2X. So together, we're one." I had to admit, watching Ned try and fail to win Jessica's heart was amusing. But unfortunately, I had my own guy-shaped issue to deal with. Philip. He wasn't winding me up anymore. Instead, he was being nice to me. He even lent me his hoodie after I spilled jam on mine. This nice version of him would take some getting used to. Now we just needed Gwen and Stan to become a couple, and things would be even more interesting. But they barely look at each other. Lucky them, as Philip was really starting to bug me. Can you believe that he actually sprayed my favorite t-shirt with his aftershave? It stank and made me sneeze. Achoo! So I stormed into the living room where he was telling some lame joke to Ned, chucked my t-shirt at him, then yelled, "Stop being weird! It's too much!" He just gave me this soppy grin and replied, "It's so I'm always on your mind." Ugh! I wasn't in the mood for this, so I returned to my room and sulked there for the rest of the day. Ugh! This apartment was too crazy! I just wanted to go home. My stomach started to rumble, so I reluctantly left the room to grab a snack. What? Jessica was spoon-feeding Philip cereal. Ned was sulking in the corner of the room, and Gwen was mimicking Jessica's actions with Stan, who now had mushed up cereal all over his face. Jeez, Philip thought he was so handsome that he could get any girl he wanted. Well, he sure moved on fast. Fine, I'd show him. I squeezed in between Gwen and Stan and touched his hair. Your hair, Stan. I've never known it is so glossy. I put my hand on my chin and looked at him with adoring eyes. And in my cutest voice, I asked him, "Would you like me to make you some French toast?" Stan gave me this petrified look and tried squirming away from me. Then Philip and Jessica walked over, and he frowned at me.
Come on, Ash. You and the emo? Really?
Gwen snorted. Oh yeah, it's better than a pretty doll and a jock. Oh wait, actually, you two are perfect for each other. Stan quietly laughed to himself, then muttered out, "Right, dumb people should be together." Suddenly, Jessica burst into tears. What? Why was she crying? Everyone fell silent and looked at her. Come on, Jess, he was only kidding. I awkwardly patted her back. Then she blurted out, I've always had a thing for Stan, okay? Huh? Well, none of us were expecting that. Poor Stan looked like he was gonna faint with shock. Jessica must have been burying these feelings deep down for so long. She was the most popular girl with a reputation to live up to, after all. Through sobs, Jessica looked at Stan and continued, I knew us being here together was my chance to see if you like me. So, I agreed to Philip's deal to see if you're jealous. Tears streamed down her face. But you just think I'm some dumb, pretty doll. She mumbled out an apology to Ned for being insensitive to him, then turned to Stan, sobbed, I'm not a porcelain doll. I have feelings, and left. Oh, wow. I didn't see that coming. I guess I feel kind of bad for her, and also guilty. But hold up. Philip's deal? Oh, so he pulled that out to make me jealous too? That night, we had another meeting. Yawn. This one was as dull as it sounds. Well, until we started discussing the meaning behind this detention.
Hey, since when did detentions go on for this long? It's been 2 weeks already.
Ned looked concerned. We all agreed. We'd learned how to live in some sort of harmony together, but still, we need to go outside. Also, my family would be worrying, right? There's two, I hope. Then the next morning, Philip was trying to de-jam the air vent in the kitchen when he waved us all over. He pointed up at something small with a tiny red light on it. Ned and he took it down. It was a camera. It could be a security camera, Jessica said. My house also has a few inside, in case of intruders or something. Gwen sneered.
Duh, your house is a freaking mansion. Here, there's no need for a security cam.
We decided to spread out and look for more cameras. In total, we found 5, all hidden around the place, including in a plant pot and fixed to a picture frame. It was freaky to think there could be more scattered around the place. Ugh. We gathered in the living room to discuss what to do about this, when suddenly the front door opened and in walked the principal and some other man I'd never seen before. Huh? Who was he? Did this mean we could finally go home? The other man started talking.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin, and you are the participants in my exciting reality show. Your principal here put you all forward for this, as I wanted kids with 6 varying personalities.
Gwen stood up and shouted, What? Is this for real? I added, There's no way my parents would have agreed to this.
They did.
The principal grinned.
They signed the documents. They all think you are at training camp.
Kevin added,
Keep up the good work, guys. The viewers are loving all this drama and attitude.
Jessica screamed out, You can't do this! It isn't right!
We'll keep you here for some more time to see how this project goes. Don't worry, you'll all get scholarships after this. That is, as long as you cooperate.
We watched as they took away the cameras we'd found. And, yep, you guessed it, they locked the door behind them. Then we gathered in the spot in the kitchen, which didn't have any cameras in it, and whispered about what we should do next. Ned suggested,
I've done my calculations, and if we join all our clothes together, we can climb down from the window.
We were about 4 floors up, so guess this was possible. Under Ned's instruction, we all wet our clothes before we joined them, as apparently this would make them less likely to tear.
I'll go,
Philip added.
I mean, I'm way stronger than the rest of you, and I'm the fastest, so I'll reach the cop station in record time, report those jerks, then send help.
So the plan was set, and we all clung onto the end of the clothes rope as Phil climbed down it. It was kinda impressive watching him abseil down the building, and he was like a real-life Spider-Man. When he reached the bottom, we hid the clothes rope in the wardrobe and slid a piece of paper under the apartment door so Philip could find our room again. Now it was a waiting game. We all tried to carry on as normal, as we were aware of the hidden cameras. Suddenly, the door barged open, and in walked the principal, Kevin, and 4 massive dudes. "Oh no!" Jessica frightenedly whispered. Those men instantly started collecting our stuff. When one of them picked up Gwen's hat, she charged at him. "Get off of my stuff, creep!" The man grabbed her around the waist with one arm and pulled her across the room. She thrashed, kicked, and screamed. She might have been big, but she's still a teenage girl, so she was no match for him. Jessica, Ned, and I all clustered together, not knowing what to do. Only Stan seemed to keep his quiet and calm. With a grin on his face, Kevin shouted, "Well, that wasn't very clever now, was it? So we're moving you somewhere new before you're discovered." Right at that moment, Philip ran into her room, followed by some cops. "There they are! It's them! They locked us up in here!" The principal straightened his tie, then in a polite tone said, "Oh, please, this is a misunderstanding. I'm the principal of Xavier Springs High School, and these are the particularly delinquent students who are all in detention. We're administering a special education program for them. And here's their teacher." He pointed over to Kevin. "Liar!" I shouted. "They just made up excuses to punish us and trap us in here. There's hidden cameras and we're on some reality TV show." "Ignore her. She has, mental issues. She'll do anything to get out of detention." Then he pointed at Gwen. "Look, officer, how could we not have special treatment for an aggressive girl like that? Don't you think?" We all shouted and tried to explain, but our words jumbled together. The only one who remained silent was, no surprise, Stan. The cops searched around, but found nothing. They thought we were only unruly teens trying to bail on detention. They were about to leave when Stan calmly walked over to them, pulled out one of the cameras we'd found the other day from his pocket, and passed it to them. Then, Stan, still without any words, pulled out a vintage recorder, pressed the button, and we all heard the whole conversation about TV shows and the principal's threats. Whoa! Nice work, Stan! The cops instantly arrested them, and we were taken back to our families, who all sobbed with joy on our return. So, what came next? Well, my high school got a new principal, and this one hasn't given me detention. Yet. The former principal and Kevin and his whole crew are in serious trouble with the cops. Looks like they might end up in jail. As for the 6 of us, well, we formed an unbreakable friendship. Philip got a sports scholarship, and I'm super proud of him. He also told his dad how he was feeling, and they sorted things out. Ned finally stood up for himself to his parents, and now they're trying to be more understanding. He also has a girlfriend and just won first prize of the state at physics. The nerd. Jessica and Stan are an official couple, and they don't care what other people think of them. They're actually super cute together. But shush! Don't tell them I said that. Gwen decided to leave this town and go study at an all-girls boarding school. She just started dating a girl there named Claire. She sounds really happy. We're all glad to hear. So, I guess Miss Tough Cookie has a soft side after all. And me? Well, I went from a lonely and awkward girl to having 5 unlikely best friends and a wonderful boyfriend. Yep, I'm now with Philip. Guess being in detention wasn't so bad after all. Cheers!
Oh, no. I'd just covered my childhood friend Kevin in coffee, but I'm currently Lyanna, so he didn't recognize me, as he only knew me as Kai. Confused? Then you should check out parts 1 and 2 first. I frantically apologized to Kevin while looking around for some napkins to soak the coffee up. It's fine, he smiled. I smiled back at him. Yep, he was the same kind, sweet Kevin. Suddenly I heard Diamond's voice. Lyanna, what have you done? Then she appeared next to Kevin and gently touched his arm. I apologize. She's new. It's okay. It was my fault anyway. I wasn't looking where I was going. That's just typical of you, always taking the blame. She gave him this starry-eyed look. Oh, so you two already know each other? I thought out loud. Yes, Kevin and I went to college together in Oz. I introduced him to Father for this project, as I believe he'll be an asset to it. Now run along and make some fresh coffees. Diamond gave me a stare. As I went off to make coffees, again, I wondered about Diamond. Did she like Kevin? Oh, no. That manipulative girl doesn't deserve such a sweet guy like him. Later that day, we had a meeting where my dad introduced Kevin as the leader of the project. Kevin then thanked him and started talking about his visions for this project. And it was so obvious how all the girls in the room couldn't take their eyes off him, including Diamond. Ugh. The next day after work, I followed Kevin out to the parking lot and shouted his name. When he turned and saw me, he smiled, and I instantly felt warm inside. I have something for you, as an apology for ruining your last one. I passed him a new shirt. I hope I guessed your size right. Thanks, you really didn't have to do this. He looked flattered as he took it from me. Yep, you have the size spot on. Impressive. His comment caused me to smile to myself. Living as a boy for years at least gave me a perk of understanding their sizes. I waved him goodbye and started to walk off, but he shouted, Wait, is there any chance I could have your number? You bet. I was blushing so hard by then. And after that, we started messaging each other, and every time my phone buzzed with his name, I found myself doing this gummy smile. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay in my love bubble with Kevin forever. Instead, I had to spend my days being bossed around by Diamond. Ugh. Once, she was ordering me to revise a report I'd already redone twice. Suddenly, Kevin walked over, picked up the report, and said, Oh, this one. You've done a good job with it, Lyanna. No need to change anything. Diamond looked furious at being undermined, and I couldn't hide my smug look. Take that, little Miss Bossy. After she left, I thanked him for helping me out. It's fine. Hey, don't take much notice of Diamond. She's just intent on impressing her father. If she causes you any more problems, just come find me, okay? Oh, what a sweet guy he was. But one afternoon, I walked into the office kitchen to make myself a drink and saw Diamond and Kevin having a serious chat. On seeing me, Diamond said to him, I'm sorry, Kevin. You needed to know the truth. Then she gave me a snooty look as she passed me. I wonder what that was about. I was going to ask him, but before I could, he just left without so much as a glance in my direction. Okay, that was weird, but maybe he was just busy, right? That evening, I messaged Kevin and asked him if he wanted to go for a jog in the park. He agreed, but when he showed up, he could barely meet my eye. Kevin, what's wrong? He was silent for a moment, then shouted, Why? Why did you lie to me? Diamond told me how you're engaged to Kai. Why did you lead me on? I sputtered out, but he just tutted, then walked off. I stood there speechless and wondering how I was going to get out of this mess. If this wasn't bad enough, as I was on my way home, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Diamond. Leave the house and the company by tomorrow, else I'm telling Kai the truth. Of course, I just ghosted her dumb message, and true to her word, the next day, my Kai phone went off. It was Diamond telling me how Lyanna was cheating on me. It was crystal clear she wasn't going to drop this. Some days later, my father asked me to go to dinner with him, so he could get to know me better before I married his son. I thought this was sweet of him, so I agreed. Besides, this was a great opportunity to test the water, figuring out if he's ready for the truth yet. We had some small talk over the appetizer. Then suddenly, Dad put down his fork and asked me, How is Kai? It's such a shame to admit, but We've grown distant over the years, and it was all my fault. I know I haven't always been the best father." He trailed off. "Kai's good," I replied. I guess it was now or never to say what I wanted to. Actually, he's really happy in Canada. And, well, he has these big dreams of becoming an architect." "Oh, I didn't know that." He lowered his head. "I just thought he'd want to inherit the company one day." "His heart isn't in it. He's so afraid of telling you as he doesn't want to disappoint you." He was silent, and I worried he was going to yell at me, only he didn't. Instead, gave a thoughtful sigh, then replied, "Very well. I respect Kai's decision, and I will support him on whichever path he chooses." This was totally unexpected from him. I was so overwhelmed I left my seat to hug him, and I told him I'd pass the words to Kai. Now I finally knew how much Dad loved Kai, which means he loved me too, right? I just needed to find a good time to tell him the truth. The next day, on my way home from work, I received a frantic phone call from Mom. Turns out Diamond had told everyone in the family that I'd cheated on Kai. As I was trying to figure out what to do next, Dad messaged my Lyanna phone and demanded I come home at once. On the way home, I thought about what I was going to say to him. Geez, this was terrifying. If it went wrong, Mom and I could end up disowned. I knocked on his study, and in a serious tone, he said, "Come in." Then on seeing me, he continued, "Lyanna, Diamond seems adamant you are liaising with Kevin behind my son's back. Please explain yourself." I took a deep breath, then blurted out, "The thing is, I'm not cheating on Kai because, well, I am Kai." Then in Kai's voice, I continued, while slowly took off my wig. "I was never actually a boy. Instead, I'm a girl, but Mom didn't want me losing out to Diamond, so she made me pretend to be a boy." He was so shocked. He leaned back in his chair and almost tumbled backward. I explained to him why Mom and I did what we did. It was such a relief, finally having that weight off my shoulders. I knew Dad needed some time to digest this avalanche of information, so I put my wig back on and went to find Mom. She was pacing her bedroom in anxiety. "I've told you to be extra careful around Diamond. Now how are we possibly meant to carry out this plan?" "Don't worry, Mom. I had found a way to resolve this mess." I comforted her, but didn't let her know that I'd told Dad the truth yet, as that would just make her even more anxious. The next few days, Dad still acted normal, as if nothing had happened, and when I walked into the dining room for dinner, I saw Diamond's face drop. She clearly thought Dad would have chucked me out by now. She slammed her fist on the table and yelled at Dad, "Why's she still here?" Ignoring her, he asked Grandpa to pass him the gravy. This only angered Diamond further, and she pointed at me and screamed, "She cheated on Kai! Kick her out of this house!" I put down my cutlery, calmly stood up, and in a confident voice I said, "In fact, I am Kai." It was worth doing just for everyone's reaction. My mom turned white. Diamond was dumbfounded while my grandparents clung onto the table in shock. After I'd explained it all to them in more detail, Diamond was the first to respond. "So you and your mother lied to everyone? This is unacceptable. Get out of this house." Poor Mom looked so ashamed. She couldn't meet Dad's eye as she mumbled out, "Don't blame Lyanna. She was just a child. It's my fault." Then she pulled my arm and whispered to me that we should leave. Diamond sneered, "Those liars. You deserve that." "Will you please be quiet? Else I advise you to just leave." Dad gave Diamond a stern look. This shocked her, and she sat back down in silence. "I've made a lot of mistakes over the years, and because of them I have many regrets. I was selfish and unkind." He looked at Mom. "It pains me to know that you felt as though I left you with no choice but to lie to me. I love you, but I know how I treated you was cruel. I was so desperate for a child that I sought comfort in someone else. I know I wasn't there for you and Kai, Lyanna, when you needed me. Now, if you'll let me, I want to make amends." Diamond jumped up to her feet so fast that the whole table wobbled. She screamed out, "This is nonsense!" and stormed off. So, that sure was eventful. But finally, everyone knew the truth, which meant Mom and I didn't have to lie anymore. And best of all, I never had to pretend to be Kai ever again. The following week, I was roaming around the house when I saw Diamond in her room, packing. I stepped in, and she said, "I'll be out of your sight in a blink. Don't worry. I'm leaving for Miami." I knelt next to her. "I don't want you to go. After all, we're sisters." She gave me this wide-eyed look. But I was horrible to you. You must have been through so much being forced to live as a boy." "Yeah, it was hard at times, but it's okay. I can be me now." I smiled. "I know I was mean. I'm sorry. I guess I've always felt like an outsider. I know my mom wants me to claim what's rightfully mine, and I felt so pressured because I'm no match for Kai." "Don't worry about it. We've all done things we regret. Besides, Kai's gone, so you can just be you. You're a great businesswoman, although you might need to tone down a notch on the bossiness." I chuckled. "Come on, sis. Let's get you unpacked." When we'd finished, I hugged her and said, "Oh, as for Kevin, I think we should fairly compete for his heart." She blushed. "Oh, no, it's fine. I used to like him, but he just sees me as a friend. Besides, everyone in the company knows it's you he likes." I felt good that we'd sorted things out. Now I just need to fix things with Kevin, and I had the perfect idea. I messaged him telling me to meet me by the woods close to his old school. Then I went and waited by the tree we once built a den in. He walked over to me, a confused look on his face. "Lyanna, how did you know about this spot?" He sat down next to me and I said, "I used to come here with my best friend when I was a kid. He was such a sweet boy. He never judged me or questioned me. It always pained me that I didn't get to say goodbye to him." I could see Kevin's mind ticking away. That's when I took off my wig, wiped away my makeup, and passed him half of a candy bar and said, "It's been a long time coming, but I owe you this." He stared at me, open mouth. So, you're Kai and Lyanna?" I said, "Yeah, it's me. I'm both." "That's why I always felt familiar towards you. This is unbelievable," he continued. "Wow." He stared at me through teary eyes. "Just wow. I mean, this is crazy. I was so upset when you left, and now here you are." When he got over the initial shock, I told him about my life and why I pretended to be a boy. Afterward, he hugged me tightly and said, "I'm not losing you again, Lyanna. I love you."
It was a normal Monday morning. I was standing by my locker when this Layla girl walked over, leaned against the locker next to mine, and talked to me in this sultry voice. "Hi, handsome. Do you have any plans after school?" I looked around in confusion. Huh? Was she talking to me? Usually girls like Layla didn't talk to guys like me. I mean, come on, look at her. She's the hottest girl in school. While I'm Felix, just your average-looking nerdy guy. I awkwardly replied, "Oh, hi, I'm just doing my homework after school. Bye." Then I left her there, dumbfounded. But it didn't end there. At the end of school, she approached me again and asked, "Do you want to hang out with me?" Followed by a wink. No thanks, I really have to finish my paper on the French Revolution." Then I walked off. Man, did she really want to hang out with me? No way. She must have lost a bet or something. Even on the next day, Layla, one more time, made a beeline for me with this scary, determined look on her face while I was chatting with my friends. And in a serious tone, she said, "Look, Felix, do you want to be my boyfriend?" What? All my friends started to cheer. I was so embarrassed that I shooed them away to get some privacy with Layla. I'm flattered, but no." She scowled at me. "Excuse me? Do you realize that I'm Layla Hall, the prettiest and most popular girl in this entire school? Not to mention a member of the cheerleading team?" Ugh, cheerleaders are so dramatic. I calmly replied, "Sorry, but you're just not my type." She shouted back, "What? I'm everybody's type!" I just shrugged and left. My God, that was awkward. But at least she got the hint now, right? Well, wrong. Because that's when the trouble just began. Firstly, it was this flood of junk emails and newsletters. Then strange phone calls from the spa and nail salon, asking if I had made an appointment for the day, which I obviously didn't. On top of that, there's a fake Facebook account that started spreading unflattering pictures of me around, picking my nose in French class, pulling this weird tongue-out concentration face as I checked over my essay. There was even a slow-mo clip of me chewing like a camel as I enjoyed my burger. Man, I was an ugly eater. While I was scrolling through these pics, Layla jumped out at me with a big smirk on her face. Be my boyfriend, then the pranks'll stop. Right, of course it was her. Didn't she have better things to do? I shook my head and said, no thanks. This still beats being with an annoying girl like you. Then a few days later, as I walked into school, I noticed that everyone was giving me dirty looks. Was my shirt inside out or something? Nope. So what was the problem? I asked some of my friends and, geez, Layla told everyone that I kissed her, then ghosted her. She's a real-life Harley Quinn. Hot, but totally crazy. Only a lunatic like the Joker could love her. I'd had enough of her antics. I couldn't let her make me look like the bad guy for something I didn't do. So at lunch, I charged over to her table and yelled in her face, "Are you crazy? Why can't you understand that I don't like you?" Then I shouted so everyone could hear me. Hey, listen, this rumor about me kissing and ghosting Layla is a total lie. She made it all up because I refused to date her. So please, save your dirty looks for someone else. Thank you. Layla shoved past me and ran out of there. Ugh, okay, maybe I was a little harsh. But you'd brought it on yourself, princess. Then during French class, she was absent, but no one knew where she went. Was it maybe because of me? Nah, probably not. But as I was walking home, I spotted her sitting alone on a swing in the playground. Just go, Felix. This girl only brings trouble, I thought to myself. But oh man, she looked so sad. So the next thing I knew, I was walking over and sat on the swing next to her. I asked, "Why weren't you in French class?" "Just leave me alone. Stop pretending you care." "Look." I took a deep breath, then continued. "I'm sorry for yelling at you in front of the whole school. That wasn't cool. But what you did to me wasn't cool either. Shall we call it even?" Layla stayed quiet for a bit, but then she nodded and smiled at me. Well, that wasn't so bad, right? So from then onward, everything was fine between us. She even smiled at me in the hallway. Whenever I saw Layla, this warm feeling came over me, and I couldn't stop grinning. Once, I even spent my entire lunch break trapezing around school just so I could catch a glimpse of her face. Oh boy, I think I've fallen for Layla. But why now? I tried to ignore these feelings, hoping they'd eventually go away. But then Valentine's Day came along, and Layla, being the popular girl she is, received enough roses to open a florist. Ugh, how annoying. I needed to do something. So after school, I went to her house with some chocolates and a teddy bear. As soon as she opened the door, I blurted out, "I know I'm a big dumb idiot. Rejecting you was a huge mistake. Please, will you be my Valentine?" I stood there red-faced and prepared for rejection. But she just snatched the gift out of my hands, then said, "Yeah, okay then." Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Me, your regular nerdy guy, was dating the most popular girl in school. Love is really unpredictable. I was amazed at how open she was to my nerdy stuff. She even watched The Mandalorian with me and cooed whenever she saw Baby Yoda. But the one thing that didn't gel so well between us was, yep, you guessed it, studying. Layla didn't seem to care about her grades, and I didn't want her to fail, so I offered to be her tutor. But she was constantly yawning and staring out of the window whenever we started studying. "Felix, I have an idea. Why don't you do my homework for me? In the meantime, I can go to cheerleading practice as we have an important contest coming up, and it means the world to me, just like your math quizzes do to you." What? Was she serious? My God, I hated cheating like this. But she gave me that puppy-eyed look, and me being the sucker I am, I agreed. "Thanks, Felix, you're the best." She kissed me on the cheek, then immediately passed me a huge pile of homework. I asked her why she had so much, and she explained that because she didn't understand it, she let them pile up. But hold on, why did she have Spanish? She was in French class with me, not Spanish. But she just shrugged and said her parents forced her to study it outside of school. Oh, my poor little pumpkin. One day, like usual, I stopped by her place to pick up her homework, but she wasn't home. That was odd. Today wasn't cheerleading practice, so where could she be? I looked through the stack that she asked her mom to give me and saw some Spanish worksheets. So I said to her mom, "Oh, she must be in her Spanish lesson, right?" Her mom looked a bit confused, then laughed. "You know Layla, she's far too stubborn to agree to extra classes." Huh? So the papers weren't hers? Then whose it was? And why? Suddenly I felt this uncomfortable feeling itching under my skin. I decided to confront her later at school. Then the next day I was walking through the hallway looking for Layla when I suddenly heard some guys cheering, something about getting an A in Spanish. Wait a minute, did he say Spanish? I turned to see who it was, and to my shock it was Hector, the captain of the soccer team. Hector was popular for being all handsome and everything, but also for sucking at school. Someone must have done his homework for him, and you guessed it, yeah, This someone was me. It all made sense now. Layla and Hector must be a couple. They may have been hot stuff, but they both sucked at studying. So she was using me to do both of their homework. It all made much more sense now. None of this relationship was real. It was all just an act. And no way was I letting them get away with this. I had a perfect plan to expose them. During lunch, I sat down at the table closest to Hector. Then I went into lovey-dovey overload with Layla. I fed her cheese fries, then I stroked her hair and loudly told her how soft it was. I quickly glanced over at Hector for his reaction, but nothing. He seemed more interested in her burger than her. Layla raised an eyebrow at me. Are you okay? You're acting really weird. I laughed loudly, then placed my arms around her, then said, it was actually more like shouting, "Oh, because you're so cute!" But why was there still no reaction from Hector? He and his friends even cheered, and on his way out of the canteen, he gave me a thumbs up. Layla didn't look fazed at all either. Man, somebody call the academy, 'cause these two deserved an Oscar. My plan was a massive fail. This was so frustrating. I fell silent, and Layla noticed and gave me this quizzing look. Something is definitely off. You're being really strange. Okay, if she wanted to know, then fine. So I blurted out, I know that the Spanish papers belong to Hector. You're together and you're just using me to do all your homework. I'm not stupid, you know. Nice meeting you, but please don't ever talk to me again. Then I left without saying a word. Well, that's the end of my story. A rather sad one, right? I would be lying if I said I wasn't feeling down about it. I truly do love her. Whatever. I'm going to college in a few months and I'll get to meet a cute, geeky girl who won't trick me into doing some other dude's homework. Sorry guys, someone's calling me. My God, it's Layla. What does she want? We're done. Stop calling. What? Fine. Promise you'll leave me alone after this? Okay, wait, I'm coming downstairs. Oh my God. Layla's at my front door and she insists to not leave unless I have a talk with her. Ugh. Don't move, everyone. I'll tell you every detail as soon as I'm back. Jesus, guys, you won't believe what Layla's just told me. The thing is that her cheerleading team had to practice a lot for upcoming contests, which means they couldn't study as much. Therefore, they had to find someone who was willing to do their homework so their grades wouldn't slip. That's when Layla came up with the plan to win me over as her boyfriend. The flirting, the pranks, they were all part of her plan. That was the truth. But Layla didn't know about the Spanish worksheets because her teammate Harper gave them to her. Turns out Hector is Harper's boyfriend. Didn't see that coming, right? But I was still super mad at Layla because she still used me. Then Layla took out some papers and showed them to me. It was homework with all B's on them. Then she told me, okay, I admit that at first I didn't like you. I only approached you to take advantage of you. But then I actually fell for you as I got to know you better, okay? So I stopped giving you my homework and did it on my own. So, her feelings for me were real too? I couldn't believe it. Eventually I forgave her and now we're happier than ever. I must say, when Layla first talked to me, I thought she was this crazy girl like Harley Quinn, who I could never like. But I was wrong. Turns out I'm the one who's crazy about her. So, I guess I have more in common with the Joker than I first thought.
I'd just finished my shift and was walking out of the coffee shop to head home when I suddenly heard a voice say, "Hi, are you Catherine Mill?" Ugh, what else? I'm exhausted already. I reluctantly turned around to a view that almost made me leap out of my skin. Standing in front of me was a girl with a face exactly like mine. Who are you? I stammered. I felt like I was seeing things. She smiled at me and said, "I'm Tracy. Is this wallet yours?" Oh, wow, you found it. I dropped it at the Seattle Mariners baseball game. I never thought I'd see it again. That's right. We met there. Then Tracy took out a cap and put it on. Hang on. That hat seemed so familiar. And so did that smile. Are you the one I accidentally bumped into at the stadium? That must have been when I dropped my wallet. I was in such a hurry to get to my seat that I'd gone crashing into Tracy. At the time, she was wearing that cap, so all I saw was her smile. But now seeing her standing here, it was like looking in the mirror. I kept staring at her as she said, "Yep, that was me. In fact, I came to find you not just to return your wallet, but because I need a favor. Can we chat for a sec?" Sure. Let's go back inside the cafe. What favor could she possibly want? Well, I was about to find out. Catherine, I'm just going to say it outright. We have something in common, don't we? I hesitated to speak up, but I knew exactly what she was talking about. She then continued. I mean, look at us. You're basically my doppelganger, which brings me to this favor to ask for. Kathy, I was hoping you'd impersonate me. I'll pay you, of course. I'll pay you a lot. Before I could even reply, Tracy handed me an envelope and showed me a photo of some very posh-looking people. This is my family, she said. Wait, what? Turns out they were royals, or something close to. Her grandfather had been an earl in the UK, and then they'd moved over here to Washington. They're what you'd call an aristocratic family. So, yep, mega wealthy. Must be nice, I thought. However, it was suffocating Tracy, and that all of the duties that came with being from a family of nobility drove her crazy. Plus, one other little problem. She was in love with a guy that her family definitely wouldn't approve of, because he came from a normal family. Her parents had arranged for her to marry the son of one of the country's richest CEOs. And so that's what led us to now. She wanted to hire me to pretend to be her, so that she could be with her lover boy without troubles. I was stunned. What if someone finds out? I muttered, and shoved the envelope back into her hands, saying that it was too much money. But Tracy just laughed. Oh, this is just the initial payment. You'll receive so much more. Please, I'm begging you. Think about it. Then she looked at me with proper sadness in her eyes. I really did feel sorry for her, but I needed some time. And it would be better to get my mom's opinion on this first. Ever since I'd been a little girl, I'd always talked things through with her. She was the only family I had, and the only one I could trust and rely on. Mom would know what to do. When I got home, I found my mom waiting for me at the table. We ate dinner together in silence, as I could barely focus. She knew something was up right away. Honey, what happened at work? I hesitated, then handed her the photo of Tracy's family. My mom, as you can guess, was shocked to see how much Tracy looked like me, and so I told her what had gone down earlier. I explained that she offered me a ton of money to impersonate her, but that it felt risky. I'd assumed my mom would be dead set against it, but what she said surprised me. That poor girl. Indeed, how people always say it's not as fun as it looks being too wealthy. But hey, a bit of extra money in your pocket couldn't hurt. I mean, you could use it to pay for your vocal training. And at the same time, you'd help Tracy, so that she can be with her true love. Yeah, becoming a singer had been a lifelong dream of mine, but because of money struggles, I'd had to put that aside. Mom's right. This was my chance. I had to take it. So I called Tracy to seal the deal. She was over the moon about it, and we arranged to meet the next day to start preparing. I thought I'd just have to learn all of her favorite things and maybe borrow some of her clothes so that I didn't get caught out. But no, there was a whole lot more to it than that. For starters, I had to take etiquette classes. Can you even believe? That first day, I had lessons on how to walk properly. They legitimately did put books on my head to improve my posture. And then came the elocution lessons to teach me how to speak more clearly. Seriously, was this Princess Diaries or what? But the best part, though, was her wardrobe. Wow, her outfits were to die for. Now that's what gave me the urge to dive into the royal life now. Everything was going well until we sat down to go through all of her likes and dislikes. Her dislikes were about a mile long. Oh man, Tracy was one fussy girl. I mean, who didn't like pizza? I basically lived off the stuff. Plus, she was vegan, gluten-free, and had a nut allergy. What did she even eat? But despite that, we got through the week. Every morning I had my etiquette classes, which now were easy peasy. I could totally pull it off as a high society girl. And then in the afternoons, I hung with Tracy and learned everything I could about her. By the end of the week, we got all things set and ready for the swap. So Tracy and I went out to celebrate. Catherine, look at our faces, she said, while squinting her eyes. I took a closer look at the phone screen, and gotta admit, despite being pretty identical, there were still some differences between us. Sure, her cheekbones were more prominent, and her nose was slightly upturned, but with a bit of makeup, I could fix that, right? Tracy wasn't convinced, though. Listen, I think you're going to need to get plastic surgery. Wait, I wasn't ready for any of that, but on second thought, I guess that would be all right, as it'd only make me prettier, which would totally help with my singing career. So I went under the knife. Not only my nose and cheekbones were fixed, but they also added a birthmark to my shoulder to match the one Tracy had. I looked like an Egyptian mummy with all my bandages on, coming out of the operating room. But when the day came to remove them, I was amazed. Just a little touch-up could make me look this incredible. I twirled around in front of the mirror in one of Tracy's glitzy dresses and just smiled. We were totally going to pull this off. Tracy was even more excited than me. She turned to me and said, "Ready for the family party?" Oh, wow. So my first mission had arrived already. I nervously looked at Tracy, and she just giggled and said, "Oh, don't be nervous. It's just my cousin's baby's first birthday party. No big deal. Although Thomas's whole family will be there. That's the family I'm meant to marry into." Okay, now I was even more worried. Tracy told me to simply do what I learned in the classes. As for Thomas, she instructed me to just ignore him, as that's what she usually did. He was used to the cold shoulder. Well, the moment I arrived at the party, I was already so overwhelmed. I couldn't believe my eyes. Her cousin's house was basically a palace with butlers and a grand staircase as you entered, just like in the movies. I almost had to pinch myself that I was even there. As I walked in, one of the butlers asked me to follow him through to the banquet hall. A banquet hall? How insane! There were crystal chandeliers hanging from every part of the ceiling, and the room looked like it was literally made from gold. I noticed Tracy's dad standing in the middle of the room with a young couple and a baby. That would be Tracy's cousin, and the baby was obviously the reason this insane party had been thrown. I took a deep breath, gathered myself, and walked towards them in the way my etiquette teacher had taught me. I greeted them casually, and it seemed no one sensed anything weird. Not even Tracy's dad. However, I was still afraid someone would realize. So I grabbed a glass of wine and went to stand in the corner just to be safe. While I was fiddling with the glass and trying not to make eye contact with anyone, a guy came up to me and clinked my glass. Oh boy! The coolest, most handsome guy ever was standing there grinning at me. I smiled back at him politely, trying not to blush, and then I realized, wasn't he
Thomas and Tracy, the happy couple?
Suddenly, I heard Tracy's dad from a few feet away, speaking towards us.
"You two look exquisite together. Be good to him now, Tracy, won't you?"
Yep, it's Thomas, the fiancé that Tracy doesn't like at all. Okay, so I need to act cold towards him, otherwise I'll ruin everything for Tracy. But heck, he was just so good looking. I quickly walked away towards the dessert table and started stuffing my face with some almond cookies, anything to distract myself from Thomas. As I picked up a third one, I heard Thomas scream, and the next moment he was running over to me shouting,
"Tracy, put it down! There are nuts in those!"
I dropped the cookie in shock. Right. I was supposed to be allergic to these delicious snacks. Totally forgot that. Gosh, I turned around to see all eyes were on me. This was a disaster. I was like a deer in the headlights. Didn't know what else to do. I pretended to faint. Thomas immediately carried me somewhere while others called the family doctor. I only took a peek when I felt like I was let down on a bed. And wow, even their guest room is gorgeous. Anyway, the doctor did some quick checkup and said I was okay. Well, obviously. Then Thomas rushed over, holding my hand and kept saying,
"Thank God you're okay, baby."
Really? How come Tracy didn't like him? He was so sweet. He was looking at me so lovingly. Wait, at Tracy, actually. Oh boy, This was getting weird. Guess I have started off this mission on the wrong foot. But having that first incident actually helped me become more careful, so I've been getting better and better at playing Tracy. I was like a secret agent that would be summoned by duty at any sec. Sometimes you'd find me as a princess, other times I'd be waiting tables. My life was getting busier, but much more fun in some senses. Then one day, Tracy suddenly appeared at my door, looking all loved up. How strange it was. Usually she only contacted me over the phone. Then she said, "Kathy, I have a big mission for you." As she sat down, she put a bulging envelope on the table and said, "Kathy, sweetie, I need a big favor this time. So, here's the thing. Me and Arnold are going to Asia for a month, and, I was wondering if you could maybe move into my house and cover for me?" I was shocked. A month? That's quite a long time. I mean, surely I'll get caught. Oh, I'm not sure, Tracy. I tried to avoid her eye contact, but she kept begging and looking like she was about to cry. Oh, God. What should I do? Guys, please give me some advice. And stay tuned. I'll be back with part 2 to tell you how things go down. Why do I have uneasy feelings about all this?